Today we're making classic deviled eggs with one special ingredient that will take them over the top. So let's get cooking. First things first, we have to hard boil some eggs. If you have a method that you prefer for doing that, go ahead and use it. If not, here's what I do. I put my eggs, I've got 6 eggs here, in a pot. Put enough water in there to cover the eggs by about 1 inch. And we are going to cover that pot and put that on high heat on the stove. As soon as it comes to a boil, we're gonna turn the heat way back down until it's at just a bare simmer, or really even just below a simmer, and let those eggs sit for 15 minutes on the stove. As soon as we hit 15 minutes, they're gonna go directly into an ice bath. Our eggs are done on the stove, and my ice bath is ready to receive them. We'll tuck those eggs immediately into the ice bath to stop the cooking process. And as soon as they are no longer too hot to handle, I will start peeling them. And other than peeling the deviled eggs, or pardon me, the hard-boiled eggs while they're still warm, I have no major advice or terrific tips to offer you. Peeling hard-boiled eggs isn't my strong suit, but I'll get it done. I'll spare you the horror of watching me do so, and we'll meet back here on this cutting board when the eggs are peeled. Ta-da, our eggs are peeled. So, time to gently, have them lengthwise, slippery little things that they are. And we'll be putting the, of course these are deviled eggs, so we are going to pop the egg yolks out into a small bowl and set the whites onto a plate, into a, into an egg platter if you have such a thing, or an egg carrier. And if a little bit of that egg yolk doesn't quite want to come out, easily just use a knife and give it a nudge. So I'm going to keep at this with the rest of my eggs. And there's nothing that says, by the way, that you have to do 6 eggs and make the traditional dozen. We like to make extras sometimes, but that way, 2 things. There's a treat for the cook, and if one of the eggs just does not come out well, or is just terribly difficult to peel, well, then you've got a backup for the presentation. All right, so keep at it with the rest of these eggs. And meanwhile, let me tell you about my other ingredients. We have mayonnaise, yellow mustard. Folks have preferences of mayonnaise. Obviously, use whatever you prefer. I'm not somebody who has a strong preference, but do what you like. If you're a Hellmann's person, or Duke's, or what have you. We have paprika and cayenne. We're going to use the paprika in the filling and on top. The cayenne is just something that I sprinkle on top, but of course you could make them spicier deviled eggs if you'd like. And we have a secret ingredient as well, and that is malt vinegar. All right, let me clean off my fingers. Set this aside and get to mixing. So we have our egg yolks. We are going to put between 4 and 6 tablespoons of mayonnaise in there. There we go. Might need to add a little bit, we'll see. About a teaspoon of yellow mustard. You can see I am not measuring here. I'd say several dashes of malt vinegar, kind of 1 or 2 per egg yolk. All right, something like that. and some paprika, probably about a quarter teaspoon altogether. All right, and we are just going to mix that. And what we're looking for is relatively smooth texture. They're not going to be totally smooth unless we, I don't know, put them in the blender or something like that, but food processor. But short of that, we'll get something fairly smooth. And I don't pipe my deviled egg filling. You can do that. It's the pretty swirls that you see on platters. You could totally do that. In that case, you're going to want it maybe a little bit looser than what I'll make, and that just means a little extra mayonnaise. All right. Instead, we're going to have something that's a little bit thicker, but definitely not chalky. So I'm going to keep mixing. I'm just using a fork. You can use a pastry blender, a potato masher, whatever works. So I'm just going to keep mixing until I get to the consistency I want. Back in a flash. Our filling is all mixed together. You can kind of get an idea of the texture here. Thick, but not too thick. And so now we're just going to spoon that into the little cavities in each of these eggs. And one more step, just a little bit of garnish. So I like to sprinkle a little bit more paprika on top. And if you happen to have, whoops, a little extra on that one, that's okay. And if you happen to have chives on hand, those are really nice on top. You could always do scallions or parsley or even cilantro wouldn't be bad here. And I'll add just a touch, just a teeny bit of cayenne. You can always do more than that. This is from peppers that I've grown and dried, so it's a bit hotter than what would actually come from the grocery store. I'm careful with it. And ta-da! Deviled eggs. Now, the really hard part, don't eat them all before your guests or family arrive. And if you can, let them cool. They're nicer when they're nice and refrigerator cool. And that is that. We hope you give these a try and you check back every Friday at 4 o'clock for a new recipe.